Evening worship at the Quebec Islamic Cultural Center cut short by terror. Sunday night, 6 people attending services were executed by 2 gunmen who targeted the men's section of the mosque. 8 others were hurt. The victims carried out on stretchers, range in age from 35 to 70. The 2 suspects were quickly arrested and are now being named as terrorists.
Quebec City today has been hit by terrorism. Hard to believe in such a peaceful, beautiful city that such a thing could happen, but it has happened, obviously.
This isn't the first time the mosque has been targeted. During Ramadan, the holiest time of year for Muslims, a severed pig's head with a note reading Bon Appetit was left at the door.
502, President Donald Trump's travel ban stirring a lot of problems with some of the nation's top officials, including the acting attorney general.
Sally Yates refused to back the executive order, so the commander-in-chief cut ties with her. Yates was deputy attorney general under President Obama and had been leading the office since Loretta Lynch resigned on Inauguration Day. Yates said she will not defend the president's executive order in court. The president said Yates betrayed the Department of Justice. He called her weak on borders and, quote, very weak on illegal immigration. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reacted to Trump's actions.
She was fired because she would not pursue the executive order on the belief that it was illegal, perhaps unconstitutional. It was a profile in courage. It was a brave act and a right act.
At the same time, President Trump appointed Dana Bente, who is an attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, to serve as acting AG until the confirmation of Senator Jeff Sessions. That is expected to happen today.
The big story we're following, the Boy Scouts of America saying it will allow transgender children who identify as boys to enroll in its programs. CBS North Carolina's Amy Cutler is live at the Raleigh Boy Scout location with reaction to this announcement. Amy?
And a big announcement at that, Sean. We spoke with several parents who are coming from a local Cub Scout meeting. Many of them clearly had mixed reactions, although none of them wanted to go on camera. Many of them trying to figure out what this will mean for their kids.
I got a call from a counselor, the head counselor from the Boy Scouts, saying that he could no longer be in Boy Scouts, and they kicked him out.
They kicked me out because I'm a girl, because I'm born a girl.
What started with the Maldonados in Secaucus, New Jersey, has now led to a big change at the Boy Scouts of America. That organization announcing it will allow transgender children to participate in its programs. Christy Maldonado says her son was asked to leave his scout troop late last year after parents and leaders there found out he was transgender. The Boy Scouts of America now saying they will use the gender identity provided on the application instead of relying on the gender listed on a child's birth certificate. The organization saying the decision was based on states and communities changing how gender is defined. In a video posted tonight, BSA Chief Scout Executive Michael Serba elaborated.
We've taken the opportunity to evaluate and update our approach. I hope you will join with me in embracing the opportunity to bring scouting to more families and children that can benefit from what our program has to offer.
Look at this amazing cloud formation in Mexico. People are calling this the hand of God. I don't know, it kind of looks a little more like a ladle to me. But what I think this actually is likely a lenticular cloud, all right? These are clouds that form along waves that come over mountain peaks. Downwind of those mountain peaks, I should say. Now, in general, lenticular clouds will look a lot like a flying saucer, and I think that's what you're looking at right here, okay? So it probably started off just like a little circular flying saucer kind of thing, and then the wind at that level in the atmosphere was likely strong enough to kind of blow it out and elongated a little bit like that. That's at least my best guess from looking at this video.
Meanwhile, before Trump's controversial travel ban was signed, nearly half of Americans said that they supported tougher immigration restrictions. This, according to a Quinnipiac poll from earlier this month. It found that 48% support a move to suspend immigration and refugee resettlement from the Middle East and Africa. 42%, as you can see here, said that they opposed such things. Several supporters, in fact, spoke out in favor of this ban over the weekend in California.
Keeping our country safe and lawful.
We were told to stay on this side, and we have. And you see a lot of angry and some bigoted people on the left who have come over here, have tried to silence me or tried to mock me.
I'm with him that we need to watch who's coming into the countries. And it doesn't mean that we're stopping it forever, the immigration from the refugees. It just means for right now.
Protests continue across the country over President Trump's immigration actions. Most of them have been peaceful, but that was not the case in Ohio last night. Take a look at this video right there. Police had to use pepper spray to break up that crowd of protesters who then clashed with those officers.
And now the state's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization is filing a lawsuit to try and stop the president's travel ban. ABC Action News anchor James Tully is live in studio. And James, this group's asking all Muslims who live here to take immediate action.
Dan, they are. The Council on American Islamic Relations want any Muslims living in Florida to contact police if they feel their rights have been violated because of Trump's executive order. CAIR filed this lawsuit just hours before the president fired Acting Attorney General Sally Yates for refusing to enforce his immigration order banning travel to 7 Muslim-majority countries. Yates was appointed by the Obama administration and was immediately replaced by that man, U.S. Attorney Dana Bente, whose tenure could be very short if Trump's pick for the position, Senator Jeff Sessions, is confirmed later today. CAIR Florida did issue a statement after this lawsuit was filed, saying in part, "We will make America great by making sure that it remains a free and just nation for all people, regardless of their race or religion."
New tonight at 11, Spokane City Council trying to stay one step ahead of the new president, proposing an emergency ordinance regarding the implementation of a religious registry. KXLY4's Elizabeth Donovan breaks down the ordinance and why the city proposed it in the first place.
Well, Nadine, that ordinance just passed about 20 minutes ago after hours of public testimony. City Council President Ben Stuckert presented this emergency ordinance tonight, saying in part, "We now have a president that does exactly what he says." And while there has been no mention of a religious registry since Trump has been in the Oval Office, the city is trying to stay one step ahead of the president. It was standing room only as testimony after testimony was shared regarding tonight's emergency ordinance.
I ask you to please pass this ordinance to prevent anyone of any faith from being singled out because of their religion.
I'm here tonight to voice my support of this ordinance related to human rights protections.
The ordinance would prohibit the city from involving itself in any religious registry. And while the president has yet to invoke such a thing, this ordinance is preemptive.
We have a president that means what he says and does what he says. He called for a temporary ban on all Muslims in the United States, and last week he gave it a shot.
City Council President Ben Stuckert says that track record is why they proposed the ordinance.
There is no reason to believe that he was joking on November 19th to a reporter and to a crowd in Birmingham, Alabama on November 21st, and on ABC News on November 22nd. When he said that he wouldn't rule out a registry for all Muslims and refugees. I take him at his word, and Spokane will not participate in any effort to marginalize any groups in our community, not ever.
Most of the testimony at tonight's meeting was in favor of the ordinance, and early in the meeting, people began to stand in solidarity with the speakers that they agreed with.
Thank you for your leadership, your bold leadership, to kind of preemptively address this issue before we have to defensively defend our rights.
But a handful disagreed.
Stay in your own country and work for it.
Tying the ordinance in with the recent executive order on immigration. When those opposing the ordinance spoke, people turned their backs, some making obscene gestures during the speech from Spokane GOP Chairman Stephanie Cates.
We've all heard of fake news. This is fake council business. It's a meaningless action that has no effect whatsoever on immigration policy.
At the end of the night, nearly the entire room was on their feet, most standing in favor of the ordinance.
I noticed Chuck Schumer yesterday with fake tears.
I'm going to ask him who is his acting coach, because I know him very well. I don't see him as a crier. If he is, he's a different man. There's about a 5% chance that it was real, but I think they were fake tears.
Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says that he will ask Congress to overturn the travel ban. Yesterday, Senator Schumer stood next to refugees from Iraq and Syria during what was for him a very emotional news conference.
You don't have to travel far in the occupied West Bank to find stories of Palestinians affected by Jewish-Israeli settlements. Naima Shabaneh lives in a village surrounded by them, and her family lost their land to an illegal outpost and have suffered for decades.
We were hoping that settlers would leave the outpost, but once Israel legalizes it, there would be no hope for us to get the land back whatsoever.
The settlements are illegal under international law, but despite that, some 600,000 Jewish settlers live in the occupied West Bank and Jerusalem. Some of them live on land privately owned by Palestinians. Israel wants to confiscate that land and is trying to pass a bill into law legalizing such settlements and outposts. They say the Palestinian landowners will be compensated. However, the land was snatched from them and negotiations over the land never took place. Palestinian officials say they have no choice but to take their case to the international community.
Going to the ICC and to the Security Council and to the Council of high contracting parties, the agreements of Geneva, particularly the Fourth Convention on the right of people under occupation, had to be done, all of them.
This is Beit El Settlement, one of the places discussed in the bill. Whether they'll have any success at the International Criminal Court to try and stop further Israeli land grabs of occupied Palestinian territory is debatable. There have been several UN Security Council resolutions that Israel has ignored, and the most recent one was passed in December. There are still legal moves those opposed to the bill can make. The Israeli Supreme Court may consider the bill unconstitutional. The government's top lawyer, the Attorney General, has already said he cannot defend the bill if passed into law. What's clear is that this issue has divided Israeli politicians, angered Palestinian leaders, and drawn international condemnation. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, the occupied West Bank.
A Fox News alert: an American killed and several others injured in a deadly raid that killed a senior al-Qaeda leader in central Yemen, along with 13 other fighters. The American casualty marks the first combat death of the Trump administration, and the president releasing a statement saying, quote, "Americans are saddened this morning with the news that a life of a heroic service member has been taken in our fight against the evil of radical Islamic terrorism. The sacrifices made by the men and women of our armed forces and the families they leave behind are the backbone of the liberty we hold so dear as Americans, united in our pursuit of a safer nation and a freer world." Connor Powell is live in Jerusalem with more on this story. Connor?
Yeah, Jenna, as a candidate, Donald Trump talked a lot about going after ISIS in Iraq and Syria, but as commander-in-chief, he's wasting no time going after al-Qaeda in Yemen. Overnight, a U.S. drone strike killed 2 senior al-Qaeda fighters in Yemen. This comes on the heels of a large-scale U.S. military raid over the weekend that targeted an al-Qaeda training camp. During that raid, 1 U.S. Navy SEAL was killed. 3 others were wounded as part of that. And an aircraft, we believe it was a helicopter, an Osprey helicopter, also crashed as part of that raid, wounding 1 U.S. service member. Now, more than a dozen militants and some civilians were reportedly killed during this raid, including reportedly the 8-year-old daughter of the American-born al-Qaeda cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, who was killed in a U.S. drone strike back in 2011 during the Obama administration. Now, for the last 2 years, much of the world's attention has been on the brutal Saudi-led war against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. And during the chaos of that war, al-Qaeda has really used the chaos and the fighting between Saudi Arabia and the Houthi rebels to expand its operations there. The U.S. has continued to target al-Qaeda there, but it's clear, Jenna, that the Trump administration is picking up on this fight against al-Qaeda, launching a much more aggressive campaign there than the Obama administration had, which focused primarily on drones. This raid seems to signal a step up in the tactics against al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula.
Your morning roast is brewing some political dissent.
In response to President Donald Trump's recent executive order, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz pledged to hire 10,000 refugees over the next 5 years. Starbucks does business in 75 countries, but Schultz said focus for refugee hires will start in the U.S. with people who have served as interpreters or support personnel for U.S. troops. Protest over Trump's immigration ban intensified Friday when 2 Iraqi refugees were detained at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. One had been an interpreter for the U.S. military, and the other's wife had worked for a U.S. contractor. In an open letter to employees, Schultz said, "We are living in an unprecedented time, one in which the promise of the American dream is being called into question." Schultz isn't the only CEO questioning Trump's executive order. CEOs from Facebook, Apple, and Microsoft criticized the measure. And Airbnb CEO pledged to give free housing to refugees. But Starbucks CEO is being credited with one of the strongest responses to the executive order so far.
A Fox News alert and a Fox News exclusive. We're learning right now from our team at the Pentagon that Iran has conducted another ballistic missile test, once again potentially violating a UN resolution. Timing on this is important. It happened over the weekend. It's our understanding it happened yesterday, and this happened on the map, as you can see, about 140 miles east of Tehran. A U.S. official is telling Fox News it was a medium-range missile which traveled about 600 miles, and it's the second time Iran has carried out such a test, defying the international community. But again, going back to the point, timing matters. It happened this weekend, and you have a big visit happening today at the Pentagon by the first Arab nation leader to visit during the Trump administration. That's King Abdullah of Jordan. So all of this developing. We'll have more from Jennifer Griffin, Lucas Tomlinson at our Pentagon in a little later on in our program.
Yes, we have some breaking news out of the White House this morning. An official release from the Office of the Press Secretary says that President Donald J. Trump will continue to enforce the executive order protecting the rights of the LGBTQ community in the workplace. This means he is keeping the order protecting the LGBTQ community that Obama implemented. The statement right here says the president continues to be respectful and supportive of LGBTQ rights, just as he was throughout the election. If you want to read the full statement, head to my Twitter at Jada Montemurano.